The Oakland Raiders may not be going to the Super Bowl this year, but they're winners in my heart. Hi everyone, my name is Holly, and today I'm going to be showing you a stack of books that I think are the best first books in a series. There is seriously nothing better than finishing your current book and going up to your bookshelves and deciding what to read next. More than likely starting a series. And for me personally, there's nothing better than cracking open that first book to a new fantasy series, whether large or small. Being introduced to the characters, experiencing the world setup, that's my favorite thing. You could honestly say a first book of a series is truly a work of art. Not that the following ones are not, but the first one is what will make you read them or not. It's like building the foundation. So I thought it'd be fun to gather up a few first books to a series that I think are worth your time and are going to captivate the heck out of you, where you'll want to binge read the rest. If this is the type of content you enjoy, you can click that subscribe button. I upload mostly fantasy content every week, and let's go ahead and jump into the first book on this list. Sinlin of Sins by Josiah Bancroft. This is the first book in the Tower of Babel series. There are 3 currently out. The 4th one is coming out eventually. This is an absolute gem of a novel. It's a steampunk fantasy combined with darker tones, which creates this magical atmosphere on the surface, but with something much more sinister lurking beneath. It actually begins as a light-hearted adventure following Sinlin and his wife Mara, who arrive at the Tower of Babel. It's this huge tower penetrating the clouds. It's incredibly mysterious. While they are walking through this ever-moving maze-like marketplace at the base of this tower, they are suddenly separated. He searches everywhere, comes out empty-handed, and only has one option left, and that is to enter the tower. But rumor has it that once you enter, there is no coming out of it. The tower is built like the layers of a cake, and every level that Sinlin of Sins, that was like when you're reading and the title pops up all of a sudden. It's different, and he's different each and every time. There are so many mysteries hidden within as Sinlin makes his way through these ringdoms. I cannot recommend this book and the series enough. Josiah's writing does have a very classical turn modern feel to it, if that makes sense, and I even liked the 2nd and 3rd one even better. The 4th one is coming out hopefully in the near future, and having to wait these couple years have been unbearable because the mystery is bigger than ever. Anytime I get to talk about this series again, it just makes me so happy. The Blade itself by Joe Abercrombie. I feel like I haven't talked about this book in particular in such a long time. It's the very beginnings, the introduction to the First Law universe, which is so far 9 books long, all behind me actually. This book is seriously all kinds of epic. It truly is the bare bones of what high fantasy should be like, and this is like the embodiment of a good fantasy novel. It has all the elements you could ever want: the magic, the heroes, the anti-heroes, the strong female characters, and the scary as hell mythical creatures. It's the perfect book for this list because as you begin reading, you can tell this is meant as a kind of cornerstone to such an intense, brutal world, as there are several smaller conflicts and the hint of a much bigger one. When the plot does start to unfold, there are twists and turns that you'd never see coming, and each time I was left very pleasantly surprised. This plot is definitely like a spider's web, I guess, and you can't help but get tangled up in it as the story moves along. The writing is engrossing and well done, and despite the content being so dark, it is actually quite funny at times. That's a very common theme amongst his books actually. In fact, I never in my life that I would root for a character that is a torturer, but hey, that's what Joe Abercrombie does. Makes you love characters you probably shouldn't love, and then you question the type of person you are. Oh, and before you say anything, of course Half a King is an honorable mention. This is a very obvious choice if the blade itself is too intimidating for you, which I totally understand.
Read Half a King, you fools.
So I'm really trying not to be repetitive here, but this list would not be correct if I didn't bring up Malice. This is the first book to the Faithful and the Fallen series, a series I am still working on myself. I will be going on to the 4th book. I don't even want to talk about the 3rd book because I am still so emotionally scarred from it. I've never had a book impact me so much, but here we are. For as long and as in-depth this story was, it's a fantastic introduction to this world, its characters and their political structure. It really takes the Chosen One trope and it spins it on its head, bringing in a fresh perspective of good versus evil. And you don't even know who the good and evil are. That's kind of the tease to the series. The game you kind of play along with the characters, and because of all of that, this is one of the most compelling fantasies that I have ever read. It's merciless and brutal, and for all of that, it feels honest. Sometimes characters make choices exactly as you expect, and other times they are driven by motives that were just under the surface and you didn't recognize. The setting unfolds very slowly and manageably. World building takes place very organically as well, and in easily digestible chunks. It's a thick book. In fact, all of them are, but they are so easy to get through. It is a magic light setting for the most part, but this fact integrates nicely into the world's history. Up next is 3 by J. Posey. I have not talked about this book since the beginning of my channel, but this one brings me freaking back. My goodness, I really need to do a reread and see if it holds up to the love that I have for it. It's the first book to the Legends of the Duskwalker trilogy, and I just love this so much, and I don't read books in this genre anymore. It's an adult sci-fi / post-apocalyptic dystopian. I know that's a lot of genres, I apologize. One of the most heart-wrenching endings I've still ever read. First off, the book starts with a really creepy prologue. This prologue, as any good prologue should, perfectly sets the tone and tension for the book. I loved it. It drew me in. It made me curious about this world, and it made me thirst for more. It takes place on Earth, but it's now a barren wasteland caused by total nuclear annihilation. There are bandits, raiders, mercenaries. I don't know why I just snapped my fingers right there. I guess I'm feeling spicy. It's very Fallout vibe, so if you played that video game franchise, and I'm always looking for books like that, and this is the perfect mold for it. The main character is a mercenary, and he goes by the name of 3, and as he's headed back into town from doing a job, he runs into a mother and her child who need help. He helps them, brings them under his wing, under his protection, but he soon finds out that they are in deeper trouble than he realized. 3 and the child's relationship was just so wholesome, and that's really what you cling to the whole time. There is so much substance to this. It was a lot of fun to read, so fast-paced. There are these zombie-like creatures called the Weir, and they are terrifying, and they're not like, oh, there's a stumbling zombie. No, it's so far more intense than that. And honestly, I only read up to the 2nd book, but it had been so long when the 3rd one came out that I never read the finale, and I own it too, but I'd really like to reread these. It's nostalgic for me in so many ways. So I think we all saw this coming, but you can't not mention Mistborn on the list like this. I will keep this segment shorter, don't worry. I mean, what better first book can you read when diving into the heart and soul of fantasy, especially one that begins like this? Starting from the perspective that the Dark Lord has already won the struggle against the forces of good, and our readers are forced to see the characters just beaten down already, but there's still hope for change, which leads into an incredible sequel and finale. Add a heist-driven narrative and a cast of likable rogues led by a charismatic hero, and you basically have the ingredients for a landmark in the genre. It's well crafted with a cool magic system involving digesting metals. I'm sure you've heard that a million freaking times. I still find people in the community who haven't read it, so it's just another great opportunity to throw it in their faces and shun them. Just kidding, but read it. And then I have Child of a Mad God. Really quick, before I really get into anything, this book is incredibly violent. Trigger warnings across the board. Please do not take that lightly. I totally understand how this book can be really polarizing for some readers. It's not for everyone, but personally, I freaking adored it. This is the first book to the Coven series. It takes place in the Snowy Mountains, where it brings in the idea of our main character, who we get to follow from a baby, and she has been brought up by this horrendous tribe who rape, murder, pretty much taint the land and the other tribes around them. But as she grows up, she does not want to be a part of this. She wants a change, and she sees these horrible acts, and it takes matters into her own hands when she discovers these magical crystals that she pierces into herself to become more powerful. Salvatore creates a gritty, vivid world for readers to explore. The pacing feels just right, especially if you're like me, and you enjoy books that allow you to travel with the characters across decades. This is exactly that. I do want to mention this is my first foray into Ari Salvatore and totally plan on picking up the Drift series this year, which he's most known for. I'm very excited for that because this was incredible and it sets up a really interesting story. So there are definitely a few other books that have the potential to be on this list, but they don't have sequels yet, so it feels a little unfair. For one, The Bone Shard Daughter is an honorable mention. I have a whole review video for it about why you should read it. It's a very tropical fantasy with a magic system involving actual bone shards and building constructs out of them. It's kind of similar to Foundryside. And Rage of Dragons is also a fantastic series opener, but I have yet to read the sequel. But I think it's going to be it for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I hope you found a new fantasy series to dive into. Give this video a big thumbs up for me if you did, if your TBR just got a little bit bigger. Follow me on social media. I'm on Instagram at Holly Hearts Books and on Twitter at Holly Niece. And until we meet again, happy reading.